Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to peel back the layers of political power, but we're not going to talk about polls or policy papers. Nope, we're going somewhere way more interesting.
Whenever we try to figure out what's happening in politics, we usually go to the same places, right? We look at the latest polling numbers, we argue about policies, and we follow what the political parties are doing. It's the standard playbook.
But what if we're looking in the wrong place? What if the real engine driving everything isn't in a government building, but inside our own heads, in the psychology of leaders, and of all of us? And that's exactly where we're headed. Think of this as opening up a psychologist's toolkit. We're going to use these tools to really get a handle on the deep-seated forces that shape everything from leadership to how crowds behave.
Okay, let's dive right in. Our very first tool from the kit looks at how a political identity gets made. And this happens long before any campaign posters go up. It's all about building a public self, piece by piece. So the source material makes a really key point right away. Donald Trump's journey wasn't your typical political climb. He came from the world of business, branding, and, of course, television. Now, why does that matter? Well, it's because his public image wasn't forged in stuffy policy debates. It was built using the rules of marketing, creating this incredibly powerful, super recognizable brand all about success, about winning. This leads us straight to a really big idea in political psychology, the authoritarian personality theory. It's been around for a while, actually. The core idea is that when times feel chaotic or uncertain, a lot of people find themselves drawn to leaders who project pure, unshakable strength and confidence. Someone who seems to offer simple order in a really messy world. And this is where it gets super interesting, because you can see how that theory plays out in very specific ways. It's a worldview that's all about winners and losers. It's a way of talking that just avoids all the messy gray areas. Everything is black and white. And it's a mindset that values quick, decisive action over sitting around and debating forever. The source also looks at leadership through the lens of political narcissism. And look, in psychology, that word means something more specific than just being vain. It points to a personality that kind of has two sides of the same coin. On one side, you've got this grandiosity that projects total confidence, which a lot of people see as strong, decisive leadership. But the flip side is a deep sensitivity to criticism. A simple policy disagreement can feel like a direct personal attack. Psychologists actually have a name for this, a narcissistic injury. It's like a wound to the ego that can trigger a really strong reaction. Okay, let's grab our next tool. Because once you've crafted the persona, you have to communicate it. And how you do that, the very words you choose, well, that's where the psychology gets even more powerful. One of the most powerful techniques is what's called populist framing. And this isn't just politics, it's psychology 101. It works by telling a simple, powerful story that splits the world into two teams. You've got the people, who are always good, pure, and hardworking, and then you have the elite, who are always corrupt and totally out of touch. In that story, the leader becomes the hero, the champion for the people against the bad guys. And really, could there be a better example of psychologically powerful language than this? It's short, it's easy to repeat, and it is loaded with emotion. It's brilliant because it taps right into nostalgia, this incredibly strong psychological pull that makes us feel like a better past can be brought back. And it does all of that in just 4 words. This slide just nails the delicate balance you see in so much political messaging. The source points out this psychological 1-2 punch. On one hand, you activate people's threat perception, their fear, by talking about things like crime or competition. But then you immediately balance it with a promise of hope, of restoration, bringing back jobs, bringing back pride, returning to a golden past. It's this constant rhythm, alarm, then reassurance. But here's a really crucial point. Leadership is never just about the leader. To really get the full picture, we have to flip the script and use our psychological tools to understand the followers. This brings us to something huge, social identity theory. All it means is that a huge part of how we see ourselves, our actual identity, comes from the groups we belong to. So in politics, this means supporting a leader isn't just a vote, it becomes a piece of who you are. So when someone attacks that leader, it feels like they're attacking you, personally. And this slide shows you exactly how that works in the real world. You build a strong in-group, the real Americans, the patriots, by having very clear out-groups. According to the source, that often means the political establishment, the media, or other countries. It's a classic us versus them, and it makes the us feel way more tight-knit. So what about those massive rallies? Well, psychology has a fantastic term for the feeling you get in a huge crowd all chanting and cheering together. Collective effervescence. It's that electric buzz, that feeling of being totally swept up in something bigger than you are. These rallies are basically psychological charging stations. They deepen loyalty and create this incredible feeling of shared purpose. And of course, in our world, you have to control the story. The source lays out this clear three-step playbook. First, you relentlessly attack the credibility of the traditional media. Second, you just go around them completely, using social media to talk directly to your supporters, no filter. And third, what does that do? It reinforces the group's own information bubble, making the leader the #1 most trusted source of news.
All right, let's put all these tools back on the table and see what we've built. When you combine this powerful persona, this very specific language, and this intense group identity, what's the end result for the country as a whole?
The outcome is something that political psychologists are talking about a lot right now. It's called affective polarization, and this is a big deal. It's what happens when politics stops being about disagreeing over ideas and instead becomes about really genuinely disliking and distrusting the other side on a personal, emotional level. They're not just wrong anymore, they're bad. And that makes it almost impossible to find common ground.
So, as you can see, this whole thing we've been talking about, it isn't just one thing. It's a perfect storm. It's a convergence of all these different forces. The psychology of a leader's personality, the raw power of populist strategy, the way our group identities work, and how the modern media landscape just accelerates it all. They all feed into each other.
Which brings us to our final big question. The psychological tools we've looked at today, they aren't exclusive to any one person or any one party. So in this age we live in, an age of instant digital media, and where politics is so tied up with our identity, are these psychological forces just the new normal? Are all of us, no matter what we believe, just more vulnerable to the psychology of power? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for watching.